Inside the Browns building, Kevin Stefanski's quiet defiance has become a story of pride versus progress. Reports suggest he'd rather step down than let Shedeur Sanders take the field, a move that has sent shockwaves through the NFL. Interview, it's a standoff that goes beyond roster choices. It's a mirror reflecting the rot beneath Cleveland's structure. Dillon Gabriel's struggles aren't just statistical. They're symptomatic of a team afraid to let go of its illusions. The locker room feels it. The fans know it. The leadership can no longer pretend it doesn't exist.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
This is more than a quarterback controversy. It's a test of Cleveland's identity. Does the organization value control over growth? Ego over evolution? Sanders is more than ready, everyone knows it. His inevitable rise isn't just about performance. It's about exposing what's been holding this team back. When that moment comes, the truth will hit hard. Progress was never the problem. Pride was. And Kevin Stefanski, the Cleveland Browns aren't just mishandling a quarterback situation. They're making a public spectacle out of organizational fear. And the consequences aren't just hypothetical anymore. The clock is ticking, the games are slipping away, and the trust, inside the locker room, inside the fanbase, and inside the league, is eroding faster than anyone wants to admit. At the center of it is Shedeur Sanders, a quarterback who has done everything right. The poise, the stats, the leadership, the readiness, it's all there. He's not some project who needs another year of learning. He's a starter stuck behind a coach's pride and an organization too afraid to disrupt its own narrative. That's not development. That's suppression. And what's worse, it's deliberate. The insider report that Kevin Stefanski would rather quit than start Sanders isn't just a wild rumor. It makes sense when you line it up with the rest of what's happening. The offensive struggles. The preferential treatment of Dillon Gabriel. The unwillingness to adapt. The deflection of blame through play-calling changes. It all fits. This isn't a team trying to win with the best tools available. This is a team trying to preserve a storyline. A coaching staff trying to protect themselves. A front office paralyzed by the idea of being exposed. And Sanders? He's stuck in the middle of it. Let's stop pretending Gabriel's performance justifies this loyalty. It doesn't. The stats are bad. The offense is stagnant. And the team's record reflects it. Gabriel hasn't earned job security. He's been gifted it by a coach who would rather protect his own image than admit he backed the wrong guy. That's the dysfunction. That's the real issue. Stefanski isn't coaching based on merit. He's coaching to maintain control. And if starting Sanders undermines that control, he'd reportedly rather walk than make the switch. That's not leadership. That's insecurity in action. And it's bleeding into every corner of the organization. The offense looks lifeless. The locker room looks split. And the fan base? They're done waiting for someone to do the obvious. You can only sell, trust the process for so long before people start demanding accountability. And when accountability never comes, the blame gets a lot louder. Because what else are fans supposed to think when the team's most talented quarterback is actively being held back for reasons that clearly have nothing to do with football? Shedeur Sanders isn't perfect. No one is saying that. But compared to what the Browns are putting on the field right now, he represents hope. He represents a spark. He represents something that hasn't been seen in weeks, urgency. And yet, he's kept out of the lineup because his success would force uncomfortable conversations inside the building. Conversations about who made the call to ride with Gabriel. Conversations about how long they ignored the signs. Conversations about why winning took a backseat to system loyalty. And those are the conversations this coaching staff clearly wants no part of. But they're coming. Because eventually Sanders will play. This kind of talent doesn't stay buried forever. At some point, whether because of a complete offensive collapse, fan backlash, or pressure from inside the building, he's going to get his chance. And when he does, if he performs, and every indication is that he will, the backlash against the delay will be massive. And deserved. This isn't just about making the wrong call. It's about refusing to correct it when it became obvious to everyone else. It's about choosing narrative control over competitive edge. And once the curtain's pulled back, there's no pretending it was ever about development. It was about ego. It was about fear. It was about the refusal to be proven wrong. And the people hurt the most by it? The players. The fans. The ones who put their belief, time, and energy into this team, only to find out that winning wasn't the priority after all. If Shedeur comes in and the offense finally finds rhythm, if the team starts moving the ball, if the locker room energy shifts, There's no excuse that can explain why it took so long. Not one. Because the film will be there. The record will be there. The games lost while the better quarterback sat will be there. And the stain of that decision-making won't just disappear when the roster finally shifts. It'll hang over this team for a long time. And that's the tragedy. This team had a chance to change the narrative. They had the talent. They had the momentum. They had the chance to turn a corner. Instead, they chose to protect a failing system. And now, they're stuck. Because if they keep starting Gabriel, the losses pile up. The locker room drifts further apart. The fans disengage. But if they start Sanders now, they don't just risk exposing the truth, they confirm it. They confirm that this was never about readiness. It was about reputation. And once that's exposed, heads will roll. So the question is, who's willing to take the hit? Because someone has to. Whether it's Stefanski admitting he got it wrong, or the front office stepping in and forcing the change, the cost of standing still is getting higher by the day. This isn't just about one position. It's about everything the Browns claim to stand for. Accountability, competitiveness, culture. All of that is on the line right now. And the longer they delay the switch, the more they prove those values were just marketing. You don't build a team on slogans. You build it by playing your best players. By rewarding performance. By admitting when a decision didn't work and adjusting before the season slips away. And right now the Browns are failing that test. The locker room knows. The fans know. The media knows. And if this continues, there's not going to be anything left to salvage by the time they finally make the move. Shedeur Sanders isn't the problem. He's the solution they're refusing to use. And when that truth finally catches up to them, the consequences won't just be a quarterback controversy, they'll be a full organizational reckoning. Let us know your thoughts. Should Shedeur have already taken over the starting role? Is the delay justifiable in any way, or has the leadership already crossed the line? Hit like if you're frustrated by the way this team is handling talent, drop a comment if you think it's time for real accountability, and subscribe so you don't miss any of the fallout, because if they don't change course now, this story isn't going away. It's just getting louder. And here's the worst part. No one in power seems willing to take the first step. Not Stefanski. Not the front office. Not anyone on the coaching staff. It's paralysis top to bottom. A complete organizational freeze in the face of obvious underperformance. Shedeur Sanders, arguably the most ready and composed player on the roster, is watching from the sidelines while Dillon Gabriel trots onto the field week after week, delivering drives that stall, throwing picks, missing reads, and eroding team morale with every snap. You don't need an NFL scouting badge to see what's happening. Gabriel is underperforming, and the team is circling the wagons to keep from admitting it. The decision to keep him in isn't about development, or experience, or system fit. It's fear. Plain and simple. Fear of admitting they backed the wrong quarterback. Fear of change. Fear of what Shedeur Sanders would expose the moment he stepped on the field. Because if Shedeur goes in and lights it up, then the whole house of cards falls. The coaching staff has to explain why it took this long. The front office has to account for weeks of wasted opportunity. The narrative that he's not ready collapses in real time. And then it's not just about one bad call, it's about a culture of denial that put ego before results. And if you're a Browns fan, that's the betrayal that stings the most. Not just the losing. Not just the dysfunction. But the fact that everyone sees the fix and leadership won't make it. It's like watching a fire burn while the person holding the hose argues about whether it's really a fire at all. And now we've got reports that Stefanski would rather quit than let Shedeur start. That's not just dramatic, it's revealing. It tells us exactly how fragile this entire coaching infrastructure really is. If starting the best quarterback on your roster feels like a threat to your job security, then you never had control of the situation to begin with. You were managing a lie, not a locker room. Because let's be honest, Sanders isn't some fringe prospect. He's a proven leader. He's put up the numbers. He's calm in the pocket. His decision-making is miles ahead of what we're seeing on Sundays. He's got the intangibles, the tangible stats, and the buy-in from the players. He's what this team is missing. And still they choose to sideline him. Why? Because success would expose the lies. That's how deep this thing goes. And we're already seeing the effects on the field. The offense is flat. The defense is getting demoralized. The locker room is fractured. And you can hear it in the interviews, players choosing their words carefully, trying not to say too much, trying not to betray what everyone's thinking. This team isn't maximizing its potential. It's being held back from within. The pressure is building. The media's not buying the excuses. The fans are boiling over. Social media is a daily referendum on the front offices. Stubbornness. And the players? They're watching every decision, watching who gets chances, who doesn't, and what it takes to get on the field. And the message being sent right now? It's not about performance. It's about politics. That's toxic. That kills culture. That makes guys check out. In preseason match sideline, this isn't just about one quarterback. It's about a leadership structure that's failing to prioritize winning. And it's happening in plain sight. Meanwhile, every game Shedeur doesn't play is another missed opportunity. Another week where he doesn't get reps. Another chance to change the season slipping through their fingers. He doesn't need more development. He needs the ball. Because real development happens under pressure. In real time. On the field. And he's ready. The only ones who aren't are the ones calling the shots. Let's be clear, starting Sanders doesn't guarantee a playoff run. But continuing to sit him guarantees nothing changes. That's the real problem. This team has no momentum, no spark, no belief, and the guy who could bring all three is being benched to protect egos. And if you think fans aren't keeping receipts, think again. The longer they wait, the more unforgivable this becomes. It's one thing to make a mistake. It's another to pretend it's not a mistake after everyone can see it. Eventually, Stefanski and this staff will have to answer for this. Maybe it's at the podium after another 3-point loss. Maybe it's in a front office meeting when ownership starts looking at the standings. Maybe it's at the end of the season, when the team misses the playoffs and the postmortem begins. But it's coming. And the answers won't be good. They could have done the right thing early. They could have said, we evaluated everything and Shedeur gives us the best shot. They could have made the switch when the writing first appeared on the wall. But they didn't. And now it's not just about changing quarterbacks. It's about facing the consequences of denying what was obvious to everyone else. When Shedeur finally takes that field, and he will, it's going to feel like a release. Not just for him. For the fans. For the players. For anyone who's watched this mess and wondered why they were holding back the one guy who might actually shift the energy. And when he plays well, when the offense opens up, when the team moves the ball and the players start believing again, the Browns front office is going to have to sit there and take the heat. Because the timeline will be clear. The missed games. The wasted weeks. The stubborn refusal to adapt. It'll all come back around. There's no walking this one back. No PR spin is going to cover the fact that this team sat a talented quarterback during a stretch where wins were within reach, just because the staff was too scared to admit they picked the wrong starter. That's organizational malpractice. And it's playing out in front of millions. The fans deserve better. The players deserve better. And frankly, Shedeur deserves better. He earned the opportunity. He's ready. And the refusal to let him lead is one of the most self-defeating decisions we've seen from this franchise. And that's saying something. What happens next? That depends on how much longer the Browns want to live in denial. They can either let Sanders play and salvage what's left of the season, or they can keep pretending everything's fine while the losses stack up and the locker room drifts further away. But here's what's guaranteed. The longer they wait, the worse this gets. Because once the truth is undeniable, once Shedeur gets his shot and proves what he's capable of, there's no hiding from the fallout. At this point, it's no longer a quarterback controversy, it's a leadership crisis. The Browns aren't just fumbling a personnel decision. They're sending a message, loud and clear, that politics and pride matter more than production. And when a franchise makes that its brand, everything else collapses around it. The silence from the top is deafening. You've got a locker room restless, a fan base incensed, and a media circus swirling, and yet no one's stepping up to say why Shedeur Sanders, a quarterback with the poise and performance of a starter, remains glued to the bench behind a struggling Dylan Gabriel. And not just struggling, a quarterback whose tape screams backup, whose numbers look more like preseason fodder than playoff potential. This isn't about development. Let's kill that narrative right now. No one truly believes Shedeur is being protected. Protected from what? Winning? Momentum? An energized offense? The only thing being protected right now is Kevin Stefanski's system. A system that clearly doesn't work but is being defended like it's sacred scripture. A system that's produced more excuses than touchdowns. And here's what makes this even more infuriating. Everyone knows Sanders is ready. The scouting reports, the composure under pressure, the ability to lead, read, and adjust. The stats speak for themselves. But the one thing he lacks, control of the narrative. That belongs to the coaching staff. That belongs to the front office. And they're doing everything in their power to cling to it, even if it means letting the season rot in their hands. You can see it in the games. Drives stall out. The body language is off. The sideline has no energy. And still, game after game, the Browns roll out the same lifeless offense and act like everything is fine. They don't just need a spark, they need an overhaul. They need someone to challenge the system, to reset the tone. That someone is sitting on the bench, helmet on, waiting to be unleashed. But Stefanski? Reportedly, he'd rather walk away than hand Sanders the ball. If that's true, and all signs point to it being more than just locker room whispers, then it tells you everything about where this team is. That's not conviction. That's fear. Fear that Sanders will succeed. Fear that the fans will turn and say, "What took so long?" Fear that the narrative will flip and expose how badly the staff mishandled this team's most valuable asset. Let's be clear, there's no version of this that doesn't end with Sanders starting. Whether it's due to injuries, pressure, or pure necessity, it will happen. The question is, how much damage will the Browns inflict on themselves before they let it? How many losses? How much locker room erosion? How long before the ownership group steps in and asks, "What the hell are we doing?" Because if the Browns truly cared about winning, Sanders would already be out there. No rational franchise keeps a top-tier talent off the field while the offense burns. You either want results or you want control. You don't get both when things are falling apart. And right now, control is all they care about. It's a dangerous game. The locker room sees everything. Players know who's balling and who's blowing it. And when effort doesn't get rewarded, when politics trumps production, you lose the room. And once you lose the room, it's over. The culture fractures. The message dies. Players stop buying in. And that's exactly where the Browns are headed. The fan backlash is already boiling over. Every Sunday feels like Groundhog Day, same script, same result, same refusal to change. It's demoralizing. And it's creating a situation where when Sanders does take the field, he won't just be expected to play well. He'll be expected to rescue the franchise. That's pressure the Browns created all by themselves. They've turned their best asset into a symbol of dysfunction. And now, the longer they wait, the harder it is to clean up the fallout. Because when Sanders steps in and produces, the fans aren't going to thank the staff, they're going to drag them. And rightfully so. You don't need a PhD in football to see this is headed for an ugly reckoning. The delay is indefensible. The excuses are hollow. And the damage is escalating. Every game without Sanders is a missed opportunity. Every loss is a mark against leadership. Every deflected question from the podium is another reminder that this team isn't being run with accountability, it's being run on arrogance. And the craziest part? The Browns have everything to gain by letting go of the ego. They've got a quarterback who wants the moment, who's built for pressure, who's ready to lead. But instead of leaning into that, they're clinging to a crumbling narrative and hoping no one notices. It's too late. The league sees it. The analysts are talking. The fans are demanding answers. The only people still pretending this is about readiness are the ones whose jobs are on the line if that excuse falls apart. So now we wait. We wait for the obvious to finally happen. For Sanders to take the field. For the Browns to start looking like a team that gives a damn about results. And when it does, that's when the real fireworks start. Because the second Sanders throws a touchdown, the second the offense finds rhythm, the second the team starts believing again, that's when everyone's going to start asking, why didn't this happen sooner? And there will be no good answer. Only damage control. And here's the part that should really scare the Browns' leadership. It's not just the fans and media that see what's happening. The players see it too. Every rep Dillon Gabriel gets is a message to that locker room. It says, it doesn't matter how you perform, it matters who the coaches are comfortable with. And that's the kind of message that eats away at a team's core. Players want to win. They want to trust that the best man will play, that talent gets rewarded, that effort leads to opportunity. But when a guy like Shedeur Sanders, who's checked every box from mechanics to leadership to mental toughness, is sidelined so the staff can protect a narrative, that trust breaks. Quietly at first, then all at once. It's the kind of atmosphere where guys stop up, where belief fades into indifference, where you don't just lose games, you lose identity. And the Browns, for all their years trying to climb out of the cellar of the NFL, can't afford to slip back into that kind of dysfunction. Not now. Not when they actually have someone who could change the entire trajectory of the season sitting right there on the depth chart. But instead of pulling the trigger, they're clinging to Dillon Gabriel. A quarterback who, by every available metric, is dragging the offense down. And the more the losses pile up, the more absurd the justification sounds. He's still learning. It's about continuity. We're sticking to the plan. At some point you have to ask, what plan? Because the current one clearly isn't working. And if Stefanski is truly willing to walk away before giving Sanders a shot, then this isn't about football anymore. It's about ego. And ego is the one thing you can't coach around. It warps decision-making. It isolates leadership. It turns coaching into damage control instead of game planning. But here's the kicker. When Sanders does eventually play, and he will, it's going to be undeniable. The spark will be immediate. The game speed won't scare him. The pocket won't rattle him. The throws will be sharp, the command obvious, and the offense will finally look like it has a pulse. And when that happens, the shame won't just be on the delay, it'll be on the people who actively resisted it. There will be no hiding. No, we always believed in him, spin. Because the delay already told the truth. The coaching staff didn't believe. Or worse, they did and they chose to suppress it. That's not just bad coaching. That's sabotage. And it's not sustainable. The fan pressure is already peaking. The media heat is turning into a bonfire. And inside that building, you can bet the tension is rising with every incomplete pass and 3 and out. No one wants to be the scapegoat. But someone will be. And the longer they cling to Gabriel, the higher that price becomes. At some point, ownership will step in. That's how these stories always go. The losses mount, the noise becomes too loud to ignore, and the people at the very top start asking tough questions. Why isn't our most talented quarterback playing? Why are we squandering our season? Who's responsible for this? And when those questions come, they won't be rhetorical. Because if Sanders was supposed to be the future, then the future is now. You don't waste that. Not in the NFL. Not when every season counts. Not when the team is spiraling and the solution is sitting right in front of you. There's no long-term plan that justifies short-term denial. That's not patience. That's fear masquerading as strategy. So what's next? Probably more of the same, until the breaking point. That one final straw loss. That one post-game press conference that turns into a referendum. That one locker room fracture that leaks out and confirms everything we've suspected. And then, finally, change. But the tragedy here is how avoidable it all was. The Browns didn't need a miracle. They didn't need a trade. They just needed to get out of their own way. To recognize talent. To reward preparation. To stop managing perception and start managing performance. Because when Shedeur Sanders takes the field, it won't be about proving the critics wrong. It'll be about proving the coaches wrong. And that's a story Cleveland's front office really doesn't want written. So if you're watching this unfold week after week, wondering how this team keeps missing the obvious, it's not that they don't see it. It's that they're hoping you won't. But we do. And when the reckoning comes, don't forget how long they waited. If you're fed up watching this slow-motion disaster unfold, drop a comment. Let us know if you think the Browns are protecting pride over progress. Hit like if you're tired of excuses and make sure you're subscribed, because the real drama hasn't even started yet. And when Shedeur finally steps on that field, the entire league will be watching what comes next.